Previously, we've talked about dotted half notes in our rhythm examples. Today, we're going to talk about dotted quarter notes. A dot on any note or rest works the same. It adds half of whatever it's dotting, 50% more. In the case of a half note that's in 4/4 or common time, it'd normally be worth 2 beats, and by adding a dot, now it's worth 3 beats. In the case of a quarter note, like we have here in the third measure of number 12, the quarter note is normally worth 1 beat, and so by adding an extra dot, we add an extra eighth note. So it's worth 1.5 quarter notes total time. In this case, the first note will be 1, the next one will be 2, the next one will be 3, and that dot will contain the first part of beat 4. Leaving the rest of beat 4 for the final eighth note. In this case, it would be 1, 2, 3. You would hold it for 4 and then and. If that dot were just a regular eighth note, it would look like this measure right here. This measure would be 1, 2, 3, 4 and. In this case, that dot represents 4 added into beat 3. So this would be 1, 2, 3, and. Again, back to back, this measure here is 1, 2, 3, 4, and. And this measure here is 1, 2, 3, and. So beats 1, 2, 3, and then the and of 4 all happen at the same place. The only difference is that in this case, 4 is a separate note. In this case, it's added together. Let's do these two measures, and then we'll do the whole piece. Count with me. These are, you'll hear quarter notes and eighth notes. 1, 2, count this measure. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Good. Now let's do the measure with the dot here. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and. Let's do that measure one more time. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and. Compare it to this measure again. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4, and. Now the measure with the dot. Ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and. All right, I think you're ready to do the whole line. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, count. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 3. Good. So that shows us how dots can make notes longer. Not an entire note value longer, not a quarter note plus a quarter note, but a smaller amount longer, a fraction of what the original note is. Now let's look at number 13. We have many of the same things going on here. This would be, again, common time, so 4/4, 1 and 2, 3 and. So again, this dot contains beat 4. And we have that several times in this. Take a moment and look through the entire line. Now let's count it together. Ready? Here we go. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. In this case, our final measure only had 2 beats, and it wasn't because there was a pickup. Sometimes phrases will leave empty space at the end of them. The composer in this case could have written a half rest in at the end, but chose not to. Let's do this line one more time. Ready? Here we go. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, rest. 1 and 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, rest. Good. So dotted quarter notes are going to generally mean that you hold a note from one number until the next number, and then the eighth note that follows it is going to be on the and of that number. So in these cases, we had our dotted quarter note on beat 3, which means it added the first part of beat 4, and the next note was and. So it would be 3 and, not 3 and, as if it were 2 eighth notes, but 3 and. Say that. 3 and. One more time. 3 and. And that gives that upbeat feeling, that off the beat feeling that's so common in dotted quarter note, eighth note pairs. Let's look at a few more examples of dotted quarter notes and eighth notes. Number 14 is in 3/4, and like our previous video examples, we see it starts with an upbeat because that's the last quarter note in 3/4 measure. It will be on beat 3, so it'll be 3, 1. This 1 includes all of beat 1. The dot represents the first part of beat 2, and then this eighth note is the and of beat 2. So this measure would sound like 1 and 3. Again, it would be 1 and 3. One more time, it would be 1 and 3. So watch out for that rhythm that comes up here. Let's count 14 together. It starts on beat 3, so I'll count 1 and 2, and then you go. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1 and 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, off. And as we've seen with previous examples, the pickup is taken from the last measure, meaning the quarter note pickup is subtracted from the value of the last measure. Instead of it being a dotted half note or a half note plus a quarter note, it's just a half note by itself. Let's look at number 15. We have the same figure we saw in measure 14, 1 and 3. So watch out for that. Let's count it together. Ready? And go. 1 and 3, 1, 3, 1 and 3, 1, 1 and 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, off. So hopefully you're starting to get the hang of it. Now in our next one, we have ties. Ties are these symbols right here. Looks like a line and maybe a sideways parenthesis if you want to think of that. But it looks like a line and it connects two notes. Now in this case, none of these notes have specific pitches, but it is important to keep in mind that ties happen between notes that are the same pitch. The letter C and the letter C, the solfege so and the solfege so. They won't connect things that are different pitches. And what a tie does is it combines the notes into one. It takes the total value and treats it as if it is one note. In this case, we're in 3/4, which means a dotted half note is worth 3 beats. A half note is worth 2 beats. So when we tie a dotted half note to a half note, we get 3 plus 2, or a total of 5 beats for that note. Now in 3/4, we can't make a single note that's worth 5 beats because you can only have 3 beats in each measure. This is why the composer chose to use a tie there, to show a note that's so long it can't fit into its context, in this case into the context of one measure. So we see we have a tie here, we have a tie here, those are both completely identical, and then we have a tie here. In this case, it's a dotted half note plus another dotted half note, or 3 plus 3, for a total of 6 beats. Take a moment and glance through that line before we count it together. Let's count it together. Ready? Go. 1, 1, 2, and 1. 3 and 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3, 1. 3, 1, 2, 3. 1, 3 and 1, 2, 3. 1, 3 and 1 and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. Off. So hopefully that gives you some exposure to dots, dotted rhythms, and to the idea of tying rhythms together.